Pharaoh set over the people of Israel taskmasters to afflict them, and the Egyptians made their lives bitter with hard bondage.
And the children of Israel cried by reason of their bondage.
And their cry came up unto the Lord. And the Lord said, I have seen the suffering of my people which are in Egypt, and I have heard their cry, for I know their sorrows.
And I have come down
To deliver them out of the hands of the Egyptians.
Moses is back.
Moses, the young prince? It can't be Eddie. He was banished by Pharaoh 10 years.
Banished for killing the overseer on an office. They say he went into Midian, married the daughter of a local chieftain, and had sons.
But he is back now, Hetty? Why? It's more than his life is worth.
Well, no one is certain why. But I tell you, Bessemont, the city is a hive of speculation. Everyone is talking. There is even a Hebrew elder named Aaron who claims to be Moses' brother. Have you heard of this Aaron?
Yes, he's a known troublemaker. He's been stirring up insurrection for years.
Well, he seems to be stirring up a full-scale slave revolt now. And he says Moses will lead it.
Moses left the capital years before you came to the seminary, Hetty. But take it from me, he is no leader. I don't say he's spineless, but he's certainly no leader.
You don't think these Hebrews will follow him?
I wouldn't think so. They're a rabble, and rabbles are led by demagogues.
And this Moses is no demagogue?
Moses stutters. He's not likely to inspire a mob. And what's one slave revolt, more or less? Pharaoh put a stop to it soon enough. Trust me?
Yes, of course, I know. But I remember a slave revolt in Parthas when I was young. A lot of people died. A lot of slaves and even some of us. Do you think I should tell Imhotep what they're saying?
Eddie, where have you been these last 3 years? Nothing happens in Egypt that Imhotep doesn't know about. Believe me, he knew when Moses set foot out of Midian.
Moses and the Hebrew are coming for an audience today.
Well, if so, it is a poor choice of days.
Today, Pharaoh sees only ambassadors.
Ambassadors bearing gifts.
Pharaoh, god of Egypt.
God of the Nile, divine Pharaoh, sovereign of the two lands, Lord of radiance, heir of eternity, may you rise like the sun, rejuvenate yourself like the moon, and create life like the flood of the Nile. We, your most humble petitioners, beg you accept our offerings.
Exalted Majesty, King of Upper and Lower Egypt, tremendous in strength, rich in power, I speak for my brother Moses.
You speak for your brother? Why?
My brother Moses is a prophet of our God. It is he who speaks for our God.
How so, if, as you say, Moses does not even speak for himself?
He can speak, but haltingly. By the command of our God, we have come, your majesty, to most humbly beg of you a favor.
Beg, slave. We do not have all morning to listen to a man or a god, neither of whom seem to be willing or able to speak for themselves.
The Lord God of Israel has sent Moses as his ambassador to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and I, my brother's prophet. The Lord God of Israel has sent us, saying, let my people go so they may serve me for 3 days in the wilderness.
And who is your Lord, that I should hearken unto his voice to let Israel go? I know not your Lord. Has he a name?
He is the Lord God, God of the Hebrews.
And I am the Lord God, God of the Egyptians, son of the sun god. This is my land, this is my river, these are my people. I have made them for myself, and all that I will I do. And I can see no reason why I should let your people go.
I must humbly entreat you to do so, O dragon of the Nile, who are known to be kind and merciful.
Leave us, all of you. Not you, Moses.
Moses! Moses, what have you done?
I had expected better of you than this, cousin.
Your Majesty?
I have a name, Moses.
Ramesses, I come as your friend. Believe that, if nothing else.
I believe that. I don't suppose that either of us has too many friends, but we are friends and more than friends. As children, we were inseparable. I suspect we learned to crawl together. Neferoften taught us the arts of the priesthood together. Rekhmar taught us the arts of war together.
We were both children, and you were a better student of both war and the priesthood than I was, Ramesses.
Was I? I was not always so sure of that. I remember the summer afternoons when we would run off together to the Nile, leaving all the others behind, all the cousins and the teachers and the priests, before I became weighted down with divinity and kingship. We were children then, insofar as the gods allowed one of their own at childhood.
And insofar as pharaohs are allowed brothers or even cousins, we were friends. But we were boys, Ramesses, and now we are grown men.
Have I changed so much, Moses?
No. Like a lotus blossom, you have opened to fulfill your promise. Then you were Pharaoh to be, and now you are Pharaoh. What happened to the others? Where are they?
The other cousins? I sent them away. Family members are dangerous, as a parent, and to pharaohs.
You sent them away as you did me.
No, Moses, you gave me a reason. You killed an officer of the state. My stupid but legitimate cousins merely conspired behind my back. And they have all received lucrative postings in the outer provinces. Unfortunately, one or two of them continued to act up.
And?
They died.
Sudden deaths?
Who can question the hand of God?
They were not very bright, even as boys, poor souls.
But you were bright. That's why we were friends. You were always bright and witty and funny, even with the stammer. It's surprising how quickly one becomes reaccustomed to the stammer.
I have never become accustomed to it in the first place, and I was much safer than the others. The others were sons and grandsons of pharaohs, and I was thought to be, at best, a bastard son of Pharaoh's sister.
And she never admitted as much. Although why anyone would want to claim Sekhmet for a mother, I do not know.
Sekhmet is a difficult woman. She has always been bitter.
Bitter? She is a bottomless well of bitterness and hatred. Have you ever asked her who your father is?
No, she was never a mother to me.
Granted, could she have been a mother to anyone? I don't wonder that you repudiated her, but her blood at least is exquisitely divine. And that story she told about finding you on the Nile, circumcised no less. That story is the reason I suppose you now present yourself as a brother of Aaron the Levite of humble birth.
Aaron is a prince of the Levites.
Well, then Aaron is a prince of a dung heap. A Levite piece of scum and a pompous idiot. You really should have chosen better. Why, in the name of Isis, would you choose to ally yourself to such people? It's not as if you were made to suffer for your birth.
No, Sekhmet protected me and you befriended me.
You were a beloved of the gods of Egypt. And even later, we were inseparable. By the gods, we shared our first women together. And our first whole keg of beer.
As I recall, you were first with both.
As befits a king. I I warmed the women for you, and I suffered the hangover. Pure acts of friendship.
Yes, I was your playmate, and in some ways your plaything, and I loved you. But you dazzled me, Ramesses. You have always dazzled me. You dazzled all of us with your beauty, and even then with the force of your majesty. You were born to dazzle the world.
Has it been 10 years since you were banished, Moses? And in that time, you've managed to acquire a new god, a new people, and a new brother. Why did you come back? To repudiate your own blood, your own gods, and our friendship?
Perhaps neither kings or prophets can afford either friends or cousins. I felt I had no choice.
There are always choices, Moses.
There are always choices. It's not always easy being a prophet, Ramesses.
And it is not always easy being a god. You know, I could understand if you had come back with that wily old campaigner whose daughter you had the good sense to marry. Jethro may be a man of the desert, but he is not without status. But the Hebrews are slaves. How can you believe that you are one of them?
I am one of them.
Nonsense! In a single moment of emotion, you struck down an overseer who was beating a slave. It was an emotional response and nothing more. And now to justify that act in your mind, you tell yourself that the slaves are your people.
No, I don't think so. But you are right that in an act of the moment I killed Amenophis. I saw an injustice and I reacted instinctively against it. I was scarcely aware that I lifted the spear and killed Amenophis. I did so in the same way I might have leaped into the Nile to save a drowning child. But I would do it again, Ramesses. Amenophis was a brute, and he was lashing that poor man to death. It was senseless abuse.
Moses, have you learned nothing about the world in all of these years? Abusing slaves. Is that possible? They are, after all, slaves. He was beating them. They do not always work willingly. They do not always die willingly. But to work and die is, after all, their function in life.
They are people.
They have been slaves forever. They will be slaves forever. What makes you think that these things will change? The river rises, the river falls. There are seasons to all things, but no change, Moses. Believe me, I'm a god and I know these things. And so it was, and so it shall be. These people were created simply as our tools.
Discontented tools.
And it is too much to ask, even of slaves, that they be always contented. You are a brilliant man. You would have made a brilliant leader. We really should have found someone for you to lead. Now you have found yourself some people to lead, and you have chosen unwisely, cousin.
It was not my choice. They are my people.
Right, just because that pompous idiot is your brother.
Aaron the Levite is my brother, my older brother. At times, he makes a great deal of his seniority.
Brother. I am a cousin, and I know better. And this talk of going into the wilderness merely to make sacrifices is rubbish. If you must lead a slave revolt, Moses, you might as well do so honestly.
We did not say we would be gone only 3 days. It is a face-saving device, nothing more. It will allow you to save face.
Oh, I understand, face. Face is very important to gods and kings. And believe me, I plan on losing no face at all.
Ramesses, it is not a laughing matter. I implore you, let these people go.
Why?
Because it is the right thing to do. The noble thing to do. Because you do not need them to build even more memorials to the dead. And because if you do not bend in this, there will be untold suffering for you, for Egypt, and for Israel. With or without your consent, God will take them out of Egypt.
Then you will have to wait for your God to do so. I had expected more from you, Moses, not these simple-minded threats. I will not let them go. I have responsibilities to the river, to the land, and to the people, to the living, and even more so to the dead. Look around you, Moses. Look at this oasis, this miracle of green, which is Egypt. Look at its temples, its cities, its granaries.
Built by slaves.
Just so.
And if there is a slave revolt,
then there will be a slave revolt. What of it? The slaves make revolts every few years. They rise up and we strike them down. They are weak. They have no skills, no arms. Their gods are weak. What are they, these so-called children of Israel? A poor desert people loaded down with superstition and living in darkness. I will send out the chariots, kill a few thousand, Torture a few more thousand, and the revolution will be over. Order will be restored. It is the way of the world, Moses. A world of slaves and masters. They cannot do more, and we cannot do less. It has always been so, and it will always be so.
I tell you, Ramesses, that it will be different this time. This is different. Their God will destroy you.
You begin to bore me, cousin. Go. Tell this Aaron and the people to take back up their burdens. It is quite the kindest thing you can do for them. Leave me.
My lord, you are the protector and the refuge of all Egypt. Look about you. Egypt is calm and at peace. The storehouses have been filled to capacity, and the dead have been appeased. The gods are in harmony. There is order in the two lands. You do well to stop them now. Why risk a slave rebellion?
And you, Imhotep?
It is regrettable, my king, but probably necessary.
Read it back, Imhotep.
Message to the overseers of the slaves. The Hebrew slaves are becoming restless. It is Pharaoh's decree that heavier burdens be put on both men and women. Every effort should be made to extract the most possible labor from the Hebrew slaves. They must work until they break. If they seek to shirk the additional labor, they are to be beaten as a public example to the others. If they speak out against us, they are to be tortured, then publicly hung. In this, as in all else, shall my counsel stand. All that I will I do.
Should do.
Plagues? I'm to threaten Pharaoh with plagues? It won't work, you know. But of course you know that. I have done what you asked, what you told me to do, although I told you what would happen. Do you see what we have wrought? Ramesses has more than doubled the workload. The first day, the overseers told them there would be bonuses for added production, nights with their husbands and their wives. It was as if the poor wretches were being told that work would make them free. I told them it was a trick, a sadistic trick, but they didn't listen. They rarely do, you know. The poor souls worked their hearts out that day. The results were dutifully recorded. Egyptian scribes keep impeccable records. It has been 3 weeks. Every single day, the quota has been increased. Men are dying where they stand. Women are withering away. Their infants are starving to death. I have seen men who slacked off from exhaustion lashed to death. I have seen a man flayed alive as an example, and all this suffering because I went to Pharaoh. I tell myself that I only followed your instructions, that I was only trying to do what was right, at least as I have been given to see the right. But our enemies surround us, and we are being dragged down into the pit. How much, O Lord? How much suffering must your people bear? And you knew. You had to know that going to Pharaoh like this would have this effect. Even I knew. I've known him since we were children, and there is a certain nobility about him, and at times a certain chivalry. But he cannot be challenged. And not by some god of a slave people that doesn't have a name. Ramesses cannot begin to understand that. He cannot believe. He believes that he himself is a god, and a man who can believe that of himself is an atheist. And now you speak of plagues. and infinitely more suffering. And as you make the common Egyptians suffer, those poor, ignorant idolaters will vent their hatred against us. Pharaoh will not bend. He cannot bend and be Pharaoh. It hardly matters. He cannot bend and he cannot win. My mind understands what you are doing. My heart, oh Lord, my heart does not. I look at my people and at their blood and their tears, and I am filled with rage at the overseers, at Pharaoh, and at you.
We are the chosen people.
And our enemies have enslaved us for generations.
We have bled to death building monuments to their dead. It is as if our youngest and best were buried alive with their carcasses.
Is this what we were chosen for?
How long, O Lord? Where is your justice? And where is your mercy? O Lord, help me to understand. O Lord, save me, for the waters are come in unto my soul.
God must speak for himself. Pharaoh, God of the Nile, does not deal through intermediaries. I am chief advisor to Pharaoh on matters of the gods, as I was to Pharaoh's divine father. Tell me again, Aaron the Levite, who is this God, so that I will be able to advise Pharaoh as to how to deal with him. The matter, as you are surely aware, is most delicate. Decorum between the gods must be strictly observed, particularly when dealing with foreign gods.
Our God is not like other gods, Master Sorcerer.
That is exactly what I have been saying. No god is quite like the other gods. Every god is unique.
The Lord our God is King of the heavens and the earth, and everything therein.
How impressive. Tell me, has this God of yours created the Nile?
Yes, Your Eminence. He is the creator of the Nile.
How can that be, Jew? Perhaps this God of yours had a hand in creating the Tigris and Euphrates. But this river Nile, is Pharaoh's own. He has made it for himself and for Egypt.
Your Eminence, I pray you listen. We have only come to entreat Pharaoh to be merciful, and to let our people go so they may serve our God in the wilderness.
And is this God of yours merciful?
His justice and his mercy will endure forever, and his signs and wonders in every generation.
Ah, signs and wonders. I see. Imhotep, we ought to be entertained by signs and wonders.
Your Majesty,
produce your signs and wonders, Aaron the Levite. And Neferotum and my sorcerers will produce their signs and wonders. I am disposed to be entertained this morning.
And so Aaron cast down his rod before Pharaoh and his servants, and it became a serpent. Then Pharaoh also called for his wise men and the sorcerers, and the magicians of Egypt did in like manner with their secret arts. For they cast down each man their rod, and they became serpents. But Aaron's rod swallowed up their rods.
Very clever. I have not seen that bit of magic before. You slaves clearly do not have enough work to do if you can spend your time creating new tricks.
with all respect to Pharaoh, who has refuge to all in Egypt, your overseers lay great burdens on our people. They are made to do more work than mere men and women are able to do.
Well, then invoke the help of this God of yours, this creator of heaven and earth and all that is therein. Let him relieve their work. Let him build our cities, our temples, and our storehouses.
O dragon of the Nile, do not, I pray you, make sport of God. God will not suffer insult. In this you will know that he is the Lord. Through Moses, my brother, the Lord has instructed me to take this rod which is in my hand, and to smite the waters which are in the river, and they shall be turned to blood. And the fish that are in the waters shall die, and the water shall become foul. And the Egyptians shall loathe to drink the waters from the river. And blood will be everywhere throughout the waters of Egypt.
And the magicians of Egypt did in a like manner with their secret arts. And Pharaoh and his sorcerers made mock of Aaron the Levite.
Leave us.
Ramesses, I entreat you, let my people go.
No.
Why not?
It's obvious, Moses. There are too many of these Jews. They are a threat.
Why? These people have never threatened Egypt.
They have never had occasion to do so, nor have they had the means to do so. And if these Hebrews are allowed to leave, others of our slaves will aspire to do so. If there's a war, they may turn to our enemies, just as you have joined with Jethro, the chief of the Midian.
Jethro, my father-in-law, is not your enemy. He is not making war.
He is not a particularly good friend of Egypt, Moses.
He is neither friend nor foe. He is for his sins a rather independent old desert chieftain. He pays you tribute.
Jethro is somewhat too independent for our tastes. His tribute to Pharaoh was not adequate, but I agree he does not make war.
Nor do the children of Israel. We have no interest in war.
I have only your word on that, Moses. And you do not control the children of Israel. You may think you speak for them at the moment, but it is rather inevitable that they will soon be out of your control.
They are a formless rabble, and you have neither the blood nor the tools to be their king.
What then, Moses? A rabble so large could be capable of doing great harm.
I cannot and will not expose my people to such risks.
You expose your people to much greater risk by hardening your heart against my entreaties, Ramesses.
So you say, Moses, but I have only your word on that as well.
You have seen the waters of the Nile become blood.
We have seen a trick, Moses. If the Hebrews leave, who will do all the work for us?
The work of building temples to the dead.
And the work of building the other public projects which make Egypt great. We're not a nation of desert-dwelling shepherds, Moses. The gods have granted us this ribbon of paradise, which Pharaoh tends as a sacred trust. And it is his sacred trust as God in Egypt to make this world radiant and at peace. And he builds temples and memorials to praise and placate the gods, and the dead to reside with them.
Beware lest the dead strike you down, Moses. The dead are amongst us always. We depend on them for their protection and their goodwill.
The dead are only rotting flesh, bones, and dust.
You're speaking of my ancestors, Moses.
Who have rejoined their divine father, the god Ra.
And believe me, my ancestors are more than just bones and dust. Ah, but I forget. The Hebrews are not civilized enough to embalm their dead. Leave us, Neferatim. Imhotep.
At least end this suffering you have newly imposed, Ramesses.
Do you think that I enjoy the suffering, Moses? You have pushed me to this, you and your threats and your rebellions. You should have stayed in Midian. Why did you come back? Why were the sheep and the wife and the wily bastard of a father-in-law not enough?
Do you believe that I'm allowing myself to be used by Jethro?
You are being used by both Jethro and by this man, Aaron. Jethro is at most a minor annoyance. Aaron has far less to lose and is therefore more dangerous. Of course he is using you. For the past 10 years, this man who purports to be your brother has been fomenting revolution in your name, and your name has proven damnably convenient to Aaron. You, a prince of Egypt who struck down an overseer, and then when you returned, they believed in you.
They did, didn't they? But as you have pointed out, the problem with people believing in leaders is that it doesn't last.
Of course they believed in you. You had the password. A mysterious prophecy by a conveniently mysterious and unnamed, unseen God. Oh, the God of their fathers, whoever their fathers were.
Their fathers were Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Desert chieftains on the order of your esteemed father-in-law. You would think that if a people was going to invent antecedents, that they would have picked a more distinguished lot.
Perhaps. But the children of Israel don't believe that they are descended from gods.
Well, clearly they have the right of it. Had they been descended from the gods, Moses, they would not be slaves.
Our
would they?
God will deliver us from slavery, Ramesses.
That is only a prophecy, Moses. Oracles and prophecies can be purchased for a pittance. The peasants buy them in the marketplace. Is it your vision Or Aaron's ambition which informed this prophecy? Royalty are never used, Moses. They use others.
Perhaps I'm willing to be used in the service of justice.
Justice? So you have invented justice of the meek and the powerless? It is a contradiction in terms. It is only authority and power which validate justice. And these people are without power as they are without valor. They turned on you when you slew the overseer. They will turn on you again. Without my authority and the fear of my power to restrain them, they will become a senseless, self-destructive mob.
They are people. People who are being buried alive by your bricks and pyramids.
Undoubtedly a more noble end than they deserve.
Do you feel no sympathy for the suffering you have created?
Yes. I feel some sympathy. The same amount of sympathy I feel when herd animals are slaughtered for food. No more, and often less. Herd animals are on the whole more pleasant than these slaves, and one does what is necessary.
Who made you judge of what is necessary?
I made me judge! To judge is one of the responsibilities of godhood.
How do you know that you are a god?
Every pharaoh has been a god since the beginning of time, Moses. Every pharaoh has been a divine protector of this oasis, Egypt, since creation. I do not invent gods, Moses. How do you know that you are a prophet?
You wouldn't understand.
Try and make me understand.
I met God in the high mountains, Ramesses, Mount Horeb. Some call it Sinai. I'd been out with the sheep 6 weeks. 6 weeks roaming the hills of the summer pasturage is enough to clear anyone's mind.
Will drive one to madness.
Is there a difference? In any case, I was carrying a lamb back to the herd after it had wandered off toward the stream when I came across a thorn bush.
I imagine thorn bushes are plentiful in the wilderness.
It was burning.
Not uncommon. It was, as you said, the heat of the summer.
It was burning, and it was not being consumed. I remember the lamb twisting out of my arms and running back toward the flock, and then I reached out to touch the bush.
To touch it?
I couldn't. Not because of the fire, but because of the divine presence. I was filled with God. I felt His presence. It was as real as the marble beneath our feet or the staff in my hands. The Spirit of God was more real. I turned and I tried to run, but I couldn't run, Ramesses. And then a voice spoke to me.
From out of the bush?
Perhaps it wasn't a large voice. It was only a voice. A still, small voice. And the voice told me that I had to come back and lead my people out of slavery.
And so, based on the strength of a vision, fostered after you had lost your mind up in the hills, you have come back and caused the deaths of thousands of these people.
Yes, and if you do not let them go, thousands more will die, and many of them will be Egyptians.
Did it not ever occur to you, Moses, that this voice was a mirage that you formed out of the sun and the solitude?
I knew it was not a mirage.
Did you ask for confirmation? Did you test the truth of this revelation?
Test God, I, a mere son of man. He is what He is. But yes, I, like the merest child, asked for miracles. It was a test of God, you understand? He treated me like the child I was acting, but He gave me 3 miracles. Is that confirmation? But it didn't matter, you see. I knew that it was the voice of God. I was speaking with God. Not one God among many, but the one true God. It was the voice of the universe. But perhaps even that didn't matter. What the voice was asking me to do was right, Ramesses. This slavery of these people, this treating people as if they were lambs for the slaughter, is wrong. It is morally wrong.
And so you came back and caused all of this slaughter.
The suffering was your decision.
It must be convenient, Moses, to be able to slough off your responsibility for all of this. This false compassion of yours does not move me. Is this God of yours compassionate?
He is a compassionate God.
Is it compassionate to see your people mired down in slavery and suffering? They are His people. Is it compassionate to see them beaten, abused, murdered, their women raped? Where is this divine compassion you speak of? And you say that they are chosen and marked by this bodily mutilation you did not willingly inflict upon your own children. What are they chosen for, Moses? It seems to me, in the eyes of your God, if he's a God, they have been chosen for nothing more or less than suffering. Is this compassion? They are like the dumb beasts of the field.
They are not beasts of the field.
That is precisely what they are. It is a question of power, Moses. As a God, I understand that.
As a man, I am compassionate. I am not ashamed of that.
Well then, perhaps you should be.
Are peace and stability so easily
Cast aside. It is no virtue to destroy the natural order of being which has nurtured us all. You who are so full of smug self-assurance, can you not even see what you are doing?
Oh, I see, Ramesses. At times I see all too clearly. At times I doubt God, and I doubt what I am doing. I am only human, and at times I feel shame and confusion. But he carries me out of doubt.
Listen to yourself, cousin. Weakness, doubt, shame, and confusion. These are infectious diseases. They are not the qualities of God. They are not even the qualities of real men. They are the qualities of women and slaves. Your God has emasculated his people. It is he, not I, who has made them so. And he understands that if you do not. He understands power.
Ramesses, I beg you to yield. Yield while you can.
I cannot yield and be Pharaoh.
He said that you would harden your heart.
Then your God gives me more respect than you do, Moses. It is my decision.
If you do not yield, God help all of us. He will obliterate you and thousands of others.
This merciful new God of yours sounds just like all the other gods. Cruel, alien, omnipotent, and still almost human.
From the city. Does it occur to you, Hetty, that you spend too much time in the city? It grows worse, Bess and Mott. All the water in Egypt seems corrupted by this curse of Moses. It's been 7 days. Our streams, our rivers, our ponds have become as blood. And the river stinks. And the fish in the river have died, and the people are afraid to drink the water. I tell you, Bess and Mott, there is blood throughout the land of Egypt. Yes, we know all of that. Imhotep tells us that it happens every 20 years or so, this discoloration of the waters. But it is nothing to worry about. Drinking the waters will not kill people. At worst, it will make them ill. And it should be better by now. In fact, Neferatim has invoked the help of the goddess. They are cleansing the waters now, even as we speak. So what are the townspeople saying, Hetty? What do the people know?
Well, it is mostly rumor. The people are afraid to drink the water. Some say the Hebrews have poisoned the water. The Hebrews or their gods. The Hebrews do not get so sick drinking the water.
Imhotep tells us that one doesn't become ill if one boils the water. And the Hebrews, by their custom, boil their water. It's a superstition of theirs. Do our people know of Moses' curse?
Oh, there's talk of curses everywhere. And the people assume it has something to do with the Hebrews. Not that most of our people mind, of course. It's not them getting worked to death. Still, now even some Egyptians are beginning to question the overseer's judgment.
And so it is easier, perhaps better, to believe that the Hebrews are responsible for poisoning the water. Gives us a reason to work them to death.
It's all still rumor. Has Moses come to Pharaoh again?
Yes, he comes almost every day now. It seems to amuse Pharaoh. Oh, look, they are coming out. Just no time for mere priests to be seen. Whoops!
To me. I still have an almost inexhaustible appetite for women. They say I have it from my grandfather Horace.
Word has it you have a harem of thousands.
I don't keep counts. Nor do I keep count of the offspring they bear me. The daughters are trading materials of sort. The sons may become a problem.
They say you have nearly 50 sons.
So they say. Perhaps I am fortunate that my father did not have my appetite. I have no siblings. But I imagine that when I die, the fraternal bloodbath will be gruesome. Most of them don't count, though. Their blood is poor.
They are your children.
Not in the sense you mean. At any given time, I suppose that 10 of my women are actually breeding. I have an essence which is of the gods, and a body which is of the earth. These are merely children of my earth, offspring of my body, if you will, not my soul. They are the sons of women chosen for their beauty, and not their blood. They don't have my car. They mean nothing. A more prudent man might have had the sons slaughtered at birth to avoid future bloodshed. But I do, of course, take an interest in my sons by the queen. Her blood is impeccable. She is my cousin Pedabastat's daughter.
I remember her as a very pretty child.
She has become a very beautiful and loving woman. We have 2 sons. The oldest is 6. I have called him Ramses, and he will be the next Pharaoh.
Do you spend much time with him?
Yes. Strange, isn't it? It turns out I have a gift for fatherhood. Then, too, I must teach the next Ramses to be Pharaoh, or he will not be able to manage the river and the people and the fraternal bloodbath. You have sent your 2 sons to Midian. You know, they will probably have become Jethro's sons by the time you see them again. Speaking of which, I have sent for Hetzakmet. Well, I've asked her to come.
Why?
Imhotep tells me that some people are concerned. They are asking, who is this man, this Moses? He claims that some people are even muttering that you might even be the true Pharaoh.
Neferatim has known me all my life. He knows who I am.
In fact, even you know who you are, Moses.
Yes, I know who I am. I am a Hebrew and a prophet of the Hebrew God. I am the brother of Aaron the Levite. I am merely the son of a man and not of a god. And you believe that I am the bastard son of a royal princess. But even as the son of Amram and Yochebed, my birth is tainted.
So my spies tell me, poor Moses. You are either the bastard son of a royal princess or the seed of incest. But either way, only one person knows who you really are, and You, I think, are terrified of Hatzachmet and of what she might have to say.
I have always been terrified of Hatzachmet. She asks too much of me. She overwhelms me with her need.
Nevertheless, even by your own account, she saved your life when she pulled you from the water.
My true mother, Aaron's mother, set me afloat that day when the Egyptians came to kill me. It was your father's edict to kill the Hebrew newborn males that put me on the river that day.
Another little bit of Neferata's advice. Still, she claimed that you were her son.
Adoptive son.
Adoptive son. Except, of course, that everyone knew that she had been pregnant before she returned with you in her arms. She at least seemed to have put my father's edict to some good use. Have you ever asked her who you are?
Would it make a difference if I had? She is your father's sister.
And she answers in infinite riddles as befits a goddess. It is a skill I would have been wise to acquire. She has been living in seclusion among the great pyramids near Giza. They tell me she is a monument of sorts after the fashion of the nearby Sphinx. Neferata tells me she sees few people, but she has consented to come.
Leave Hatzachmet with the Sphinx and Giza, Ramesses. She will only add to the contamination in the land. Leave her and end it all now. Only let my people go. It is no longer only my words which I speak here. You have proof. You have seen the waters of the Nile become blood.
A natural occurrence, Moses.
That is what you choose to believe.
The rest is the hysteria of the people. The blood in the waters is as much a creation of your imagination as is this thornbush god of yours.
It is hysteria, yes, but it is justified hysteria. There will be more plagues, and your own people will turn on you. And they will turn on you only as a people can turn on a god who has betrayed them. They will devour you, Ramesses. In the name of heaven, yield.
Still, Pharaoh refused to let the people go.
And so Aaron stretched out his rod over the waters, and the frogs came up and covered the land of Egypt.
And the frogs came into their houses, and their bedchambers, and their beds, and the houses of their servants, and upon the people.
But Pharaoh's magicians did their own enchantments and brought forth frogs.
And so Pharaoh was not moved.
You've come from Pharaoh.
What did he say?
Aaron, leave me be.
What am I to say to the people?
I will speak to the people.
When the frogs were throughout the whole land, Pharaoh agreed to let the people go. And the frogs died out of the houses, out of the villages, and out of the fields. But when Pharaoh saw there was respite, he hardened his heart and hearkened not unto Moses and Aaron. And then the dust of the earth became lice in man and in beast throughout the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh's magicians tried to do the same with their enchantments, but they could not do so.
Yes, I know, Your Majesty, but I believe that there are explanations for each of these plagues. The frogs were driven from the rivers by the infestations, and it was the frogs that carried these lice-like creatures. But there may be a chance that we are, in fact, dealing with some new and powerful god. Whatever is causing these disasters, natural or otherwise, is a force that we, your sorcerers and your priests, do not understand. It is not a force we can contend with.
It is like shadowboxing, isn't it? We can't see the enemy. We cleared the frogs, we suffered the lice. But an enemy we cannot see, we cannot fight.
True, my king. And so perhaps we should let them go.
First, I must know who and what this god is. What is this force?
It is what it is. Does it matter what the source of our misery is? Does it matter that we yield? The people believe it is Moses' God, but does it matter?
I will speak to Moses and he will lift the plague.
Yes, but worse will come unless we allow them to leave. Nothing less will satisfy his God, you know, and perhaps nothing less will save Egypt. Each plague is worse than the one before it.
We will survive.
Yes, my king. But perhaps we have been judged and found wanting. At the least, the Hebrews have become a source of great discontent throughout the land. We will do better without them. Free the Hebrews. We can find new peoples to enslave.
It will not be so simple, Imhotep. Moses tells me that people were not meant to be slaves. Look about you. We have made this world ours. And we have made the earth and the river our servants. We took this world and we have formed it. We Egyptians have mastered science, technology, the very stars. And to maintain it all, we need slaves, Imhotep. It is ridiculous to believe that we are being bested by a handful of dirty nomads.
And if we are being bested, Neferatu?
Egypt will never be bested. Egypt is forever. They have a creation myth.
We were building pyramids when even by their own account they were a formless void. How can these people and their upstart god threaten us? It will be in the end as it was in the beginning. Leave me be.
And there came a grievous swarm of flies into the house of Pharaoh, and into his servants' houses, and into all the land of Egypt. The land was corrupted by reason of the swarm of flies.
Nephew.
Honored aunt, it is always a joy to receive my divine father's sister.
Do not think that I come in response to your summons, nephew.
I am well aware that you came of your own free will.
I came because I heard the rumors, who has not? And I have seen signs and wonders as we all have. It has been a year of mighty plagues. They tell me that my son Moses has created them. Is this true?
You do not think I know the answer.
Probably not. I ask only as a courtesy.
And as a courtesy, I will answer you, most honored aunt. Moses tells me that he is not the author of these plagues and contaminations on the body of Egypt. He tells me that he is simply a humble messenger, the prophet of a new divinity, the divinity of the Hebrews.
And you believe him? Seems rather late in the game, doesn't it, for the divinity of the Hebrews to manifest himself?
Perhaps this new divinity appears late in order to make a grander entrance. His entrance has certainly been grand. Moses, dear aunt, does not believe that he is your son.
And how would he know? A man does not know the circumstances of his own birth.
Is he your son, Divine Highness?
What woman would not claim such a powerful son, Imhotep?
Yes, but, Divine Highness, is he your son? It makes a difference to the people.
And it makes a difference to you, Imhotep. Has it worried you? And our young Pharaoh, who sits here clothed in all his dignity, has it worried our beautiful young Pharaoh?
Do I seem worried?
You do not want me to answer that question, nephew. Nor, I think, do you want me to answer the other question.
Perhaps not. But Imhotep does.
Imhotep is an old woman. Ask him to leave, and we will talk. What I say to you is for your ears only. The two of us will talk. We do not need mere mortals corrupting our air. How do you tolerate any of them? Pretentious little people.
Power, even for a god, must be mediated. One grows accustomed to the presence of mere mortals.
Cynicism, and in one so young and beautiful.
And powerful. You have not changed. You always resented me, and you have always resented my beauty.
Resentment is perhaps not adequate to express my dislike. Even as a child, you were insufferable. And your father was seduced by your beauty, just as he was seduced by your fool of a mother.
Ah, yes, my mother.
Ah, yes, your mother, the beautiful daughter of a minor border chieftain.
You do not think she was a fit wife for Pharaoh?
Pharaoh may have anyone to wife. They tell me you plow half the females in Egypt. Your mother was just another woman for Pharaoh. She was not fit to be the mother of a Pharaoh.
My divine father believed she was fit to mother a Pharaoh.
Your father was following Imhotep's advice. Imhotep, who even as a very young man, prided himself on his scientific knowledge. She was selected, poor thing, because she came from a family of strong breeders. She was selected as one selects a brood mare. A very simple, stupid woman, your mother, honorable nephew.
She was a good mother to her son.
And you are certainly a good son. Much better than my son. You loved her, insomuch I suppose you are capable of loving anyone.
My father loved her. He took no other woman.
You would like to believe that, wouldn't you, that your father loved her?
It is true. She was divinely beautiful.
But not divine. Your father never loved her.
How are you so sure of that?
Your father was a divine being. True pharaohs can only love other divine beings. Your father knew that.
And so you think he should have loved his only sister?
He did love me. Pharaohs have always married their sisters. In this, they are the children of the wolf god Horus.
But he did not want you in that way.
He loved me and he wanted me, only me. You know nothing. He worshipped me and he worshipped my body. Our bodies beat with the same heart until he betrayed me. Laugh at me? You think this is the delusion of a bitter old woman?
Yes.
I tell you, he married your mother only because of Imhotep.
Imhotep?
Imhotep, with his science and sorcery, convinced your father that all the deaths in the family and his own physical weakness were due to inbreeding. As if pharaohs, the sons of Ra, were simply brood animals. And as a brood animal, he convinced your father to take a wife from lesser clay. Your father may have temporarily wanted her beauty, but he never cared for your mother. We were blood of the same blood, flesh of the same flesh. We were the last of the children of Pharaoh. We were Egypt's destiny. And because your father rejected his destiny, rejected me, Egypt is now cursed.
He rejected you, and so you went out and got pregnant by someone else.
Fool! I would never have contaminated my womb with the seed of a mere mortal. It was your father. It was always your father. I bore him a child, a boy child.
And that child is Moses. Is that what you are trying to tell me? My father told me your child did not live. You said as much yourself.
That is what I told your father. After he became seduced by your mother's beauty, after she became pregnant, he resented me. I, who would bear him his first son. I told him that my child did not live. I told him that my child was born a twisted, deformed, swollen thing. I called him Egypt. And I, with my own hands, drowned him in the Nile, just as Neferatim had counseled your father to do with the infants of Israel. It is a very great irony, isn't it? And then I told him that I found another child in the reeds. I called that child Moses, child of the Nile. And then I took Moses to my breast and he nursed, as your father had nursed. Your father grew to hate me, but still he could not stop loving me. I had become a poison to him.
And so Moses is not your child.
That is what I told your father. Why should I tell you more than I told your father? Believe what you will. Believe that the other child of the Nile died at birth. Believe that Moses is that child. I do not care.
If Moses is my brother, you wish him to be Pharaoh in my stead.
No. Your father rejected me. He took what should have been mine, only mine. He took his sacred seed and cast it into the body of swine. Why should I have given him my splendid son? He had his own son. A simple-minded son with a beautiful body and the gonads of a pig. I did not give my son to your father. I did not give my son to Egypt. My son is to be my vengeance. He will destroy Egypt. He is the bringer of plagues. He is the new God. He has come to vindicate.
I do not believe you. He does not believe you. He believes he is a Hebrew.
It is convenient for him to believe that. People believe what they choose to believe, honorable nephew. But I have spoken, and I will now prophesy. My son will destroy you. He will wipe you and your seed and your possessions from the face of the earth. My son will destroy Egypt as it is, and as it has always been.
Moses says that he will leave Egypt if I let his people go.
But you will never let them go. You are not strong enough.
And there was a very grievous murrain. The hand of the Lord was upon the cattle in the field, upon the horses, upon the asses, upon the camels, upon the oxen, and upon the sheep. And still the heart of Pharaoh was hardened, and he did not let the people go.
And Moses took ashes of the furnace and stood before Pharaoh. And Moses sprinkled it up toward heaven, and it became a boil, breaking forth with flames upon man and upon beast.
Pharaoh himself is covered with boils. They don't know that, do they? Not the people.
You don't think this means he's human, Bessemot? That he's human like everyone else?
He's a god, all right. He doesn't scratch.
We haven't seen a twitch out of him. It's as if the boils weren't even there.
The Hebrews are boilless.
They have their own problems. Neferatim has ordered more beatings and more deaths.
But the overseers are growing afraid, Bessemot. They may fear this new god of the Hebrews even more now than they fear Neferatim.
Impossible! Neferatim has been Pharaoh's enforcer and Pharaoh's chief sorcerer for 2 generations. They have feared him for these 30 years and more since before you and I were born. That sort of fear doesn't die. And our spies tell us there's plenty dissension among the Hebrews.
Better dissension than boils.
Behold! Tomorrow I will cause it to rain a very grievous hail, such as has not been in Egypt since the foundation thereof, even until now. Send therefore now, and gather thy cattle, and all thou hast in the field. For upon every man and beast which shall be found in the field, and shall not be brought home, the hail shall come down upon them, and they shall die.
How bad is the damage, Imhotep?
Bad, my king. We lost most of the barley and the flax. The barley was still in the ear and the flax was bold. Fortunately, there was a lot less damage done to the wheat and the spelt. It's still early yet in the year, and on the whole, the smaller plants seem to have weathered the hail better.
And the people?
Well, those who listened to Moses, those who brought their folk and their beasts in out of the field, fared fairly well. He did give us adequate warning. The others lost a great deal. The land is littered with dead. And the word throughout the land is that the only path to survival through this time of cataclysm is to listen to Moses, who speaks truly with God.
It does not end, does it, Imhotep? I grow ill with the weariness of it. This iniquity which strikes at the heart of my land does not end.
I have come to believe, Your Majesty, that only you can end it. All this will end once you let the Hebrews go.
I agree to let them go after every plague. I tell Moses I will lift the curses if he will free. I will free his people if he will lift the curses.
Yes, and every time he does lift the curses, you change your mind.
Yes!
To what end? Each plague is worse than the one before it. It seems we are only buying our own slow death. What are you buying time for?
Pharaoh has sent for Balaam, the son of Peor.
Balaam? The Mesopotamian seer? That man is said to be totally shatterbrained.
But a very effective shatterbrain, it seems.
Those that he curses are truly cursed, and those that he blesses are truly blessed.
That's what they say. They also say that while his gift of prophecy is astounding, the man is not very reliable. You will have him curse these Hebrews?
That is the plan. He took some convincing.
I know the family. They always take convincing. But offer them enough gold and silver and precious cloth. Oh, they'll always come. What makes you think he can curse these Hebrews effectively, Neferatu? By the gods, we have cursed these Hebrews every way we know possible, and we have powerful curses. It seems they just swallow our curses and grow fat on them.
Balaam is a Semite. Our curses have been ineffective because we do not know this God that we are cursing. Nor, I think, do our Egyptian gods know this God. They knew him, they could fight him. You cannot fight what you do not know. If I had a name, if I knew what he looked like, I could find a curse, an incantation. This god Baal is just such another Semitic deity. They may even be cousins, these gods. A priest of Baal will know what to do.
O most divine majesty, who risest like thy father the sun, the seer Balaam, son of Peor, has arrived.
We welcome you, Balaam, the son of Peor.
I have come, Ramses, son of Ramses, because you sent for me. That is why I came, or at least I think it is. By the grace of Baal, this place reeks of death, doesn't it?
You came also, Balaam, because Pharaoh offered you gold and silver and precious cloth.
Oh, that too. There is no question that I have a weakness for gold and silver. He offered me beautiful women as well. I have a weakness for them too. And at our age, Neferatu, they don't come eagerly. No, they don't. More is the pity. Ramses, your majesty, may I have a word with you without these two? They distract me.
Well, old man? Well, old man?
You sent for me, didn't you? I forget why.
I want you to curse the children of Israel, and I will pay you a great deal of money to do so.
Right. I could use a great deal of money. I like money.
They tell me you hate the Hebrews.
I can't stand the bastards.
What is it about them that you hate?
I don't know. I've never actually met a Hebrew before. It's the prophecy, you see.
The prophecy?
I have a prophecy just as your father did. God told me that the Hebrews will someday be the death of me, so it stands to reason that I hate them, doesn't it?
Sounds eminently reasonable, old man.
Right. So I will try to curse these people for you, but the problem is I can't always control what I say. This gift of prophecy, it's the damnedest thing. I can only say what God once said. He whom God blesses, I must bless, and he whom God curses, I must curse. Much as I like gold and silver and wind, I can't do otherwise. The words which God puts in my mouth are the words I speak. I can tell you it upsets a whole hell of a lot of people when I can't deliver the curses they think they're paying for. That is why I need to be paid in advance. Half the time I wouldn't be paid otherwise. I have the gift of prophecy, no question about it, but it can sometimes be a double-edged sword, and that's a fact. All too often my clients don't like what I see, but I will try. I will try my damnedest to curse these bastards for you. It'll be for me as well, won't it?
I understand. I ask that you do your best to curse them. This Baal of yours, do you think that he is powerful enough to battle the God of the Hebrews?
I don't know. The fact is, I don't think in terms of this God or that God not anymore. God is just a voice in my head. Of course, we know what Baal looks like. We have little Baalim all over the place in Peor. Some are really rather remarkable works of art, and they are, all of them spectacularly well hung, but I don't think of them as God so much as a representation of God. The name you use doesn't make a difference. All the gods, all the statues seem to me to be representations of the same God, the same voice. I think at times we think we need to see our God, but I don't know why. I mean, these Baalim, these statues, they don't see us, do they?
And you are convinced that this disembodied voice you hear is the true God?
When he speaks to me, I am convinced.
Your divine world is very simple, it seems, as is Moses's.
Yes, it's nothing like the chaos of the Egyptian pantheons, but the problem is, there was precious little room for negotiation with my God. There was no threatening him. If there was only one God, you can't hope to pit one God against another. He is what he is, and he does what he does. And since I've left home to come to you, I've been getting more and more worried about what he's been up to.
Well, with all the plagues, any rational person would be worried.
Oh, I make no claims to be a rational person. Prophets are never rational. It stands to reason that if you were rational, you wouldn't be a prophet. You'd go into something safe like public administration. And it isn't the plagues, it's my ass.
Your ass?
Yes, I am worried sick about my ass. No, not that ass. My four-legged ass. All the way here, my ass was telling me it did not want to come. No, not in words, of course. You understand my ass rarely speaks, but it was doing everything to avoid coming. I have to make a generous use of the whip, I tell you. I beat the poor thing the whole way here.
Your ass is not the prophet, Balaam. You are.
I wouldn't be so sure of that either. My ass has always had something of a gift for prophecy. Balaam's ass is a more reliable prophet than most of the two-legged prophets I know. If God was sending a message through my ass, you and I are in big trouble. But still, I will try my damnedest to curse these people for you.
Your ass notwithstanding, all any one of us can do is try.
And that is God's truth.
By the morrow, the Nephiratim took Balaam to a place where Balaam could overlook the people of Israel. And Balaam said to Nephiratim, "Build me here 7 altars, and prepare me here 7 oxen and 7 rams." And Balaam offered on every altar a bullock and a ram. And then Balaam took up his parable, and he said,
"How shall I curse whom God hath not cursed, or how shall I defy whom the Lord God hath not defied?"
And Nephiratim took him to another place. And Balaam sacrificed there 7 oxen and 7 rams. And Balaam lifted up his eyes to the heaven, and he said,
"God is not a man that he should lie, neither the son of man that he should repent. Hath he said, and shall he not do it, or hath he spoken, and shall he not make it good?"
And Nephiratim said unto Balaam, "Neither curse them at all, nor bless them at all." But Balaam lifted up his eyes, and he saw Israel abiding in their tents according to their tribes. And the Spirit of God came upon him. And Balaam, the son of Peor, the man whose eyes were open, said,
"How goodly are thy tents, O Jacob, and thy tabernacles, O Israel! As the valleys are, they spread forth as gardens by the riverside, as aloe trees which the Lord hath planted, and cedar trees besides the waters. Blessed is he that blessed thee, and cursed is he that curseth thee."
And Balaam plagues continued.
And the hail was followed by a plague of locusts.
And they, the locusts, ate the residue of that which escaped destruction in the hail.
And again Pharaoh agreed to free the Hebrews, and again he hardened his heart against Moses.
After Moses had caused the locusts to be swept away,
You sent for Balaam, Ramesses.
Much good it did me.
I imagine it did you no good at all.
You are so sure of yourself, Moses.
No, Ramesses, I am rarely sure of myself. At times I am almost paralyzed with indecision. Fortunately, Aaron is always sure of himself.
Well, Aaron was born a slave. In the moment of truth he will fold. You will not. It was what makes you so dangerous.
It can't be that simple. We are all men, Ramesses. We will live, we will die, and we will be judged as men.
We are all to live by the sweat of our brows, all beasts of burden in this brave new world of yours, and you would be king of those beasts. You would be king in Israel and in Egypt.
No, I will be gone from Egypt, and I am not the king of Israel.
You are single-handedly forging a nation out of a ragtag rabble of desert barbarians.
Perhaps I am their leader, but I am not their king.
It sounds like kingship to me.
No, we have no king but God, and whoever leads must walk with God. So when my time comes, I will find some younger man and put my hand on his shoulders and wish him strength and good courage, and he will take up the burden. That is what being a leader is about, being strong and of good courage.
That and walking with God, and being filled with shame and confusion, I'm practicing justice in this new, weakly, effeminate way you speak of. It sounds a contradiction to me. Your God is to be strong, weak, strong, courageous, and weak.
Merely human. Ramesses, I know that you do not understand. Perhaps you cannot understand. Only admit that there are forces in the universe that you do not understand and cannot control. Admit that at least, and let the people go. Not for my sake, or their sake, or even for your sake. Let them go for the sake of this Egypt, this oasis in the desert you tell me you love.
Go then! Go, all of you! You, Moses, are a traitor to our love, to our land, our gods, and our people. Get the hell out of my sight and kick all your barbarians, and go! I'm sick to death of you and your Hebrew God. What, do you want me to abase myself? Oh, I can say the words, Moses. I have learned the form of this thing you call repentance.
I want only that you let the people go. The words with which you do so are between you and God.
Go and end this iniquity which strikes my land.
And Moses went into the wilderness and called upon God. And Moses went into the wilderness and called upon God. And there came a mighty west wind, which took away the locusts,
and cast them into the Red Sea, and there remained not one locust in all the coast of Egypt.
Divinity, you do not realize the danger. You are the body, the blood, the soul of this Egypt. Without your kinship, without you, Egypt will perish. To think that your sacred father took this viper into his family, that your aunt took this viper to her breast. If my counsel had been followed, Moses would have been killed at birth, and we would have been spared. Give me leave to free your land of this contamination.
Yes, old man. It is time. Past time. Have Moses killed, and Aaron as well.
It may take a few days, but you may consider it done, Your Majesty.
Even that may not end the plagues.
Well, it will certainly not end the plagues if the plagues are, as we think they are, simply natural disasters. But Moses and their God will no longer be credited with these plagues. And it will end the slave revolt. And hence a revolt amongst our own people. And once Egypt is again at peace with herself, we will work to repair the damage wrought by the plagues. And Egypt will heal.
Can we kill Moses and Aaron?
Why not? He tells me that he is but a man, of flesh and blood, with arms and legs. He tells me that I am but a man as well. If we are all only men, then we are frighteningly mortal. Men can be killed.
His God has become exceedingly powerful.
And our God seems to have become exceedingly weak. Perhaps we should take that as a lesson in godship and in kingship.
Your Majesty?
Both gods and kings should kill their enemies while they still can.
Moses never seemed to be your enemy.
And perhaps it is wise to kill a fair number of our friends as well. It's a precautionary measure.
A great man should not have to do so.
Perhaps not, Imhotep. Not in ordinary times, but these are extraordinary times. The world is desperately out of balance. The elements have conspired against us. I know not else how to make it right.
I've come to report to you, Imhotep. I'm one of Pharaoh's spies.
Wait here a moment.
Come.
Welcome, Ishmi. You have news.
Yes, sir. Bad news.
That seems to be the only kind we've had recently.
I came as soon as I could see to come. You know that Moses has gathered together the Hebrews? Well, there are 600,000. And that doesn't count all of us Egyptians who have joined them. We were in camp that day. Moses had gone into the mountain to recall the locusts. And when the west wind came to clear them away, there was great rejoicing in the camp, I can tell you. The Egyptians had been showering their wealth and their jewels on the Jews in the hope of fending off the plagues.
Moses is becoming rich?
No, sir, not him. He doesn't take it. He leaves it to the women and priests. He talks to us of humility and virtue and practices those things as well. He delivered a sermon to us that day like he does most days.
A sermon?
That day he talked to us about how God wants us all to be humble and think not on the wealth of the world, but on the wealth of the Spirit. He told us that to follow the commandments of the Lord was to delight in life. You know the sort of thing.
I'm not sure that I do.
Well, he's educating the Hebrews in the ways of this new God. And there are a precious lot of do's and don'ts in Moses' idea of religion. But most of us figure it's worth it if we can avoid the plagues. And then, afterwards, after the sermon, he and Aaron dropped back down from where they were standing and walked amongst us. It happened then.
What happened?
Suddenly a group of men surrounded them, cutting Moses and Aaron off. And they had knives in their hands. Some of the knives are the ones our ritual sorcerers use. Aaron raised his staff as a strike at them, but Moses just stood there quietly and asked, "Who are you?" Although he had to have recognized two of his own lieutenants. And he wasn't stuttering then, not at that moment. He was deadly calm. "We come," they said, "from Pharaoh and from Nepheratim, and we come to kill you, the maker of plagues." And so they struck all together as one man.
Moses and Aaron are dead?
No, they're not dead. In that very moment, the darkness came. One moment it was day, and the next it was pitch black night. We heard screams, but we couldn't see them. We couldn't see anyone. And then we heard Moses, stuttering but calm. He assured us that all was as it should be. The darkness had lifted a little by then, at least there amongst the Hebrews. We could see that all the assassins had been struck down. Struck down, Moses said, by the Spirit of God. I left camp to come and tell you, but at the border, the darkness, it was still complete. We had to wait days for Moses to lift it, and then we came.
Bessemot, what is it? What in God's name is it now? Nepheratim heard him, and then he just turned and went into the palace. I was worried, so I followed him.
When I came to him, he had lifted his own staff and taken the serpent's head off, leaving the sharp edge. And then he spoke, commending himself to the gods he had dutifully served all his life. And then he drove the staff into his chest, falling on it to his death. I came to tell you, they ready the body for funeral.
Neferautim is dead. It is the death of an era, Imhotep.
An era of certainty, Your Majesty.
Yes. Certainty is dead. I have given him a proper burial, complete with carved servants to see him on his way. I made sure that none of the laborers who prepared the grave were Hebrew and none were beaten. How much I have learned.
Yes, Your Majesty. We have all learned a great deal at our own cost.
It seems we have been judged. Our lives, our gods, our people have been found wanting.
My lord, I pray you, Jews, let the Hebrews go. How long can this man be a snare to us? Egypt is being destroyed.
You know that Egypt is being destroyed, Imhotep. Even as we speak. Land is in confusion, and it is not just a plague. Our irrigation system is in disarray. Our nation has become a chaos of warring tribes. Our enemies surround us. The land is deprived of kingship.
Then as you love life and hate death, yield and Egypt will survive. But give us time to heal, my lord, time to bind our wounds and care for those who have borne the brunt of all this suffering.
We will survive. But perhaps not as we once were. Perhaps we will have survived only to be swallowed up by Babylonians and Assyrians, mad butchers of men who are without science and beauty and art. Perhaps we will have survived only to be swallowed up by the vultures.
Oh, your vision of the future is too bleak, my lord. These plagues have eaten into your soul, the soul of Egypt. Yield only to their God, and we will rid this land of its despair.
To the nameless God? That is our problem, Imhotep. The old gods are dead, and we have not yet found a name for the new ones. I do not know how to call out to them. I do not know how to speak to them.
This nameless God wants only our capitulation. And he is powerful enough to force our capitulation. There is no dishonor in surrender to an overwhelmingly superior force. Surrender, and we will live to fight new battles. But if you do not surrender, Egypt will continue to suffer. Oh, my king, you are our head and our heart. You are the God by whose judgments we live, both father and mother of all Egypt. But it is the body of Egypt. It is the common clay, the common men and women who have been made to suffer the cost of these battles. It is the country that is being raped and beaten.
Why have you come? To gloat?
Why? Only because I am still alive? That was none of my doing. No, Ramesses, I have come one last time as a friend to beg you and to warn you.
And you, like Imhotep, asked me to surrender.
I ask only that you let the people go.
And your God?
My God prefers repentance to surrender. But he will settle for surrender. And believe me, Ramesses, repentance is a great deal more difficult to manage.
I mean to abase myself. Every time there is a plague, and every time that I say they may go, I intend to abase myself. But I cannot do it. Something stops me.
Perhaps you stop yourself.
And perhaps The essence of me that is of the God says to the clay of me that is of the earth that we will not be bested by this God of Israel. And that is what he wants to do, Moses. He wants the world to see the gods of Egypt, the Pharaoh brought low to the ground at his feet. He will settle for no less. I would not in his place.
Perhaps. But perhaps he simply means to redress an injustice. We have been slaves in Egypt for hundreds of years. How many of our lives have been sacrificed? How much of our blood? In the beginning, I came and I begged you. Had you let them go, your gods would have been spared, at least in your mind and in the minds of the Egyptians. And you and Egypt and the children of Israel would have been spared all of this suffering. I have come to beg you again.
And if I do not yield, an even worse plague will follow, Moses.
Yes.
I see. I can't. I wish that I could, but I cannot. So what is to be, Moses? What is the next plague, cousin?
The next plague will be the last plague. God will take the firstborn of Egypt.
There is something of justice in that, I suppose. My father took all the male newborn of Israel.
Reverend says, repent and save your own people.
I do not think your God wants me to repent. He has a point to make.
And are you willing to die so that he can make his point?
I am in fact rather eager to die at the moment, Moses, and I am my father's firstborn.
You are your father's only male child.
At least by your account, not its sentiments. And is death so unacceptable an alternative? I am weary. My limbs are the limbs of a man of 90. I am desiccated and there will be no blood left in me for the bones to drain. Of course I have not finished much work on my pyramid. But that matters little. As slave labor has proven difficult to come by. My book of the dead is only half written.
Let the people go and you will be inscribed in the book of life. If you do not repent, Egypt will be left in the hands of a child.
Is that so bad? It is easier for a child to repent. It is easier for a child to surrender to the wonder of things. It is easier for a child to erase history.
O God and God of my fathers, from the end of the earth I cry unto thee. My heart is overwhelmed. Lead me to an understanding that is greater than mine. O God and God of my fathers, you are a God who delightest in life. You ask that we, the living, tell our sons of our redemption from Egypt, and we will do so in every generation. You ask me to curse Amalek. I can curse Amalek when he surrounds me with murder in his heart. I can strike Amalek when his heart is raised against me. But this piecemeal destruction of Amalek fills me with fear and trembling. O God and God of my fathers, cause Pharaoh to repent. Hear me, Lord. Hide not thy face from thy servant. Draw nigh unto my soul and redeem it. Thou hast caused the earth to tremble, and thou hast broken it. Now heal the breaches thereof, for it shaketh. Let the words of my mouth
and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to thee. O my Lord, my rock, and my Redeemer.
Mother hates me! Not that I can blame her. I hate myself. Miserable, delicate creature that I am.
We will build a temple for him, Ramesses, and a book of the dead. There will be pavilions for his soul, and he will go into life eternal.
The others? The thousands of others who died because I did not bend? There's not enough clay in all of Egypt to make the bricks for the pavilions. What have I done? There's mourning in every place. Towns and villages lament.
You have been a king in Egypt.
This is an Egypt for the dead and not the living.
No, my king. The greatness of Egypt will live on.
Let them go, Imhotep. Let the Hebrews go.
Yes, my king. They go even as we speak.
And Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron by night, and said, Rise up, and get you forth from among my people, both ye and the children of Israel, and go. And the Hebrews baked unleavened cakes of the dough which they brought forth out of Egypt, for they were not leavened, because they had been thrust out of Egypt and could not tarry. Neither had they prepared for themselves any victual.
And this is the bread of affliction, which our fathers ate in the land of Egypt. Let all who are hungry come and eat.
They are gone, Imhotep?
Yes, Your Majesty. All of them. Men, women, children, animals. The people were at least happy to see them leave.
The people will be less happy to do the work of slaves.
The people will be alive.
Yes.
I decided to go after them, Imhotep.
Go after them?
With 1,200 men, 600 chariots.
Go after them, but why?
To bring them back, of course.
You cannot bring them back with a few hundred men and half again as many chariots. We're speaking of 600,000 people.
Still, I must go. You have seen the map, Imhotep. He has led them into a trap. Instead of following the coast north to this promised land of Canaan. He has taken them south along the Red Sea, near the Bitter Lakes. He has camped there with no way of crossing. The mountains surround him on 2 sides, the sea from a third, and I will be coming from the fourth. I should be able to hurt him like animals.
Yes, Your Majesty, but is he trapping them, or is he trapping you? I agree, I see no way that they can all spring together, not 600,000 people, but it feels like a trap.
Yes, it does, doesn't it? It feels like a trap. Still, I must go.
My king, please, soul of Egypt, I implore you, do not leave those chariots. So there will be a few less temples built. What are a few less temples? You are only human.
I refuse to be only human, Imhotep. If I am human, then I am not Pharaoh. The chariots will be harnessed and I will go. Commend me to my younger son. And I have appointed you regent in the event that I do not return. Take good care. I have appointed you regent in the event that I do not return. Take good care of my son, Imhotep. And take good care of Egypt.
No, Your Majesty, I cannot do it. I'm no king.
Then be a leader. Be strong and of good courage, my friend.
The Egyptians pursued after them, all the horses and chariots of Pharaoh and his horsemen and his army, and overtook them, encamping by the sea beside Pi-hahiroth before Baal-zephon.
Sir, honorable sir.
Yes, you come from the camps. Do you know what happened?
Honorable sir, a moment. Please, let me drink. I almost didn't make it. Three of us left camp running. The others fell by wayside. A moment.
How bad is it, son?
Bad.
Tell us. Now, we will not kill the messenger. We're all Egyptians here, aren't we? And that's not the Egyptian thing to do. We're all civilized. How bad is it, son?
Bad, sir. As bad as anything we've seen so far, and wondrous as well. We were all settled there, huddled by the edge of the sea. It had been days. Moses was up in the hills talking to the air as he always does. And there was a great deal of unrest in the camp, I can tell you that. Dathan and Abiram, two of Moses' enemies among the people, were preaching sedition again. They wanted to go back to Egypt. They asked if there weren't enough graves in Egypt. Why did we leave Egypt to die like wild animals in the desert? But the pillar of cloud didn't move, sir.
Pillar of cloud?
Yes, sir, a pillar of cloud. It's how we knew where to go. We followed a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. And the pillar of cloud just sat there, becalmed. And so we waited. And then the scouts Aaron had posted in the hills. The scouts saw that Pharaoh was coming. There we were, pinned like sheep for the slaughter. With Pharaoh and all his splendor, and hundreds of chariots and hundreds of horses were coming down out of the hills to run us into the sea. We thought it was over. Even Moses must have thought so. And then Pharaoh reached the shore.
What happened?
Nothing at first. But there was one man, Nakshun. He's the son of Aminadab of the tribe of Judah. The bravest man I ever saw, or the most foolish. I don't rightly know which. He stood there in the midst of the multitude and called out, "What are we waiting for?" He called up to Moses and said, "This is no time for prayer. This is a time for faith." And Dathan shouted back, "Nakshun, look, there is water there, and we'll be mown down and we will drown." And Nakshun just laughed in his face. Just laughed in his face and said, "We are Jews. We will learn how to live in the underwater." And then he just walked into that water. And he kept walking until it was up to his neck. And pretty soon 100 other people started following him. I guess they thought it was better to die drowning than die trampled. But it was more than that. I think most of them followed because they believed. They had faith. And then it happened. The pillar of cloud became a pillar of wind.
A tornado?
I suppose. And the wind whipped the sea. It seemed to whip a path right through the sea, and people could walk. Men took children up in their arms. Women came beside them, their arms around each other, each of them helping the other. The animals just sloshed across beside their masters. Then Aaron and Moses came down off the mountain to follow Nachshon and the people. No one panicked, but it seemed to take forever. And all the while, Pharaoh kept coming closer. Only now we couldn't see him, because the pillar of cloud was between us and the chariots.
Did you go across?
No, sir. I was terrified. It parted for them because they were Jews. I knew that. I wasn't certain. But my friend Kafra, he went. And the water came and swept him off his feet. I knew that their God wasn't going to let me pass through, being as I was a spy.
And then?
And then, just as the last of them were passing over, Aaron and Moses together, Pharaoh reached the shore. I could see Moses most of the way across, holding up his hand with the staff still in it, as if to stop Pharaoh. I could almost hear him call out, "No! Stay back!" I swear he was trying to warn Pharaoh. But it was too late. He wouldn't have stopped. I don't think he could have stopped. And Pharaoh went into the seas with all his chariots.
Did he make it to the other side?
Pharaoh and his chariots were in the sea, and the pillar of cloud rose up high into the air and went before the column of people. And when it did that, the waters came crashing together into the sea. Perhaps some of them could have been saved, but they were so close together, and the horses were frenzied. I watched. A handful of foot soldiers saved themselves. Everyone else was lost. All lost. At the end, I could see Moses on dry land, reaching out a hand to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh rising up in his chariot like a god, whip in hand, whipping his horses forward, even as the waters broke. By the life of Pharaoh, he was without fear at the end.
He was Pharaoh, the soul of Egypt, alone, by himself, without equal.
Woe unto the world because of offense. For must needeth that offenses cometh, but woe unto the man by whom the offense comes.
As it was said 3,000 years ago, so still must it be said.
The law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple. The statutes of the Lord are right, rejoicing the heart.
The commandment of the Lord is pure and enlightens the eyes. The fear of the Lord is clean and endures forever. The judgments of the Lord are true and righteous together.
Yitgadal v'yitgadach Shemei Rabbah. Ve'al madi brachi utei ve'amich malchutei v'yitzmach v'karneim karev yishichay. V'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael. V'agala u'vizman karim ve'yuru. Amen.